Welcome to my channel. My name's Josh Christian, and today I want to discuss a topic that I think is close to both my heart and probably most people watching this. I would venture to say most people watching this have some form of presence on social media, whether that's just a Facebook where you connect with friends and family, or whether you're a superstar on YouTube and have 10 million subscribers. One way or another, we all have to deal with criticism sometimes, and this video is sort of my analysis and tips on how to deal with that, both internally and externally. Let's get started. So first off, I want to say that all of the advice I'm about to give you is platform agnostic. Whether you just have a Facebook, whether it's an Instagram, a YouTube channel, or even outside of social media, just how you deal with real people in your everyday life. I think this advice is pretty much universal for everyone across the board. The most important thing you need to do before you respond to anyone's criticism is to identify what type of negativity it is. Now, I have my own personal system for identifying different genres of negativity, but you yourself may come up with your own. But for me, on my channel, on my social media, and dealing with people in real life, I have found that almost all negative criticism easily fits into one of four categories. Now, some of these comments that people make are not perfectly going to fit in one of these categories. Sometimes someone may make a comment that fits into 2 or 3 or even 4 categories. Again, this could be in person face-to-face, or it could just be in a comment on your YouTube channel. When you take your time before you respond to criticism, of course your emotions are going to relax. They're going to calm down. You're going to have time to sort of let the dust clear before you give your answer. And this means that your emotions are going to affect your answer less than your logic. So I guess that would be my first piece of advice, would be before you respond to anything, take time to analyze it. Take time to think about their perspective and their worldview. Think about maybe the fact that this person that's criticizing you might even have something wrong with them. They very well might have a mental health disorder. I get comments on my YouTube channel all the time that are critical and nonsensical to the point that I can tell very clearly and obviously there's something wrong with that person. And I don't want to just snap back at those people and be mean to them. I know there's something wrong with them and I have to be understanding of that. Because ultimately life isn't about you. It's not about any individual. And if we're going to live together in this world and be nice to each other and learn to actually be positive influences, one of the most important things is how we treat each other. And when people treat you bad, if you snap back at them, it's just this never-ending cycle that keeps going. So the first type of criticism that you're going to deal with pretty much constantly throughout your entire life, regardless of what profession you're in or how old you are, is constructive criticism. Now, constructive criticism is the easiest of these four to identify because it doesn't normally come from a place of malicious. For example, I made a video recently where the autofocus was bouncing in and out of the scene. It was so annoying. It kept bouncing to the background, to my face, background face. The GH5 has a switch on it that can go to AFC or AFS, and I just accidentally bumped the switch and it messed up my whole autofocus. Normally I just use manual focus. Okay, no problem, right? When I got to editing, it was really annoying me, but I said, I'm still gonna upload the video anyways because most people won't notice or care. Well, it turns out a few people did notice, and most of them were really cool about it. They just said, oh, you need to fix your autofocus, set it to manual next time. And those people were completely right. That was good, quality, constructive criticism. And I just responded with kindness and grace because that's all I can do. All I can do is respond to these people and say, thank you so much. I really appreciate you leaving a comment, letting me know how I can improve my videos in the future. Those people were not malicious. They weren't mean. They were just letting me know, here's how you can improve your video in the future. Same thing with the audio. I had set my preamp incorrectly. So some people noticed there was something a little bit wrong and they commented saying, you should fix this. You should maybe switch microphones or do this or that. I mean, everybody has their own idea of what's wrong. Not everybody was necessarily right, but they were right about there being a problem. And with situations like that, you just respond with humility and kindness because those people really aren't going to hurt you. And in fact, long-term, they're probably going to help you. With that said, though, I did get some people who were right. They said, your autofocus is so annoying that I can't watch the video and you're a moron. I would literally get comments like that and think to myself, well, the person's right. Their constructive criticism is correct, but they're doing it in the wrong way, right? They're bullying me. So with people like that, probably the best thing you can do is just not respond, to be honest. But even with people like that, sometimes I'm still nice. I just respond and I say, thank you for letting me know. I'll watch out for that next time. And one of the things that I've found that's interesting is that the nicer I am to people who are critical of me, the more often people delete the comment. In fact, this has happened dozens of times just in the last week. Now, I don't know exactly why they deleted the comment. I can't say for sure, but I would imagine it's because they were highly critical of me and I was just nice to them in response. So if you're running a YouTube channel or if you have an Instagram and you're some sort of social media influencer, this becomes particularly important. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you have a Facebook, you have 300 friends and family on your Facebook, and maybe you post a new song that you just recorded. Maybe you're a musician, you like posting music, and your friends and family get on your case about it. They immediately start commenting that they don't like it. I've had this happen to me personally when I was a musician. There's always somebody that has an opinion. There's always going to be somebody that likes your content or doesn't. So how do you respond to criticism when it's from people that you know? Does that change anything? Well, in my opinion, no, it doesn't change anything at all. In fact, I think even more so, friends and family have your best interest at heart. So in a situation like that, just be, again, kind and graceful and respond with humility whenever you can. This is the easiest thing you can do to vastly improve your life. And this goes beyond other people too, because when you respond to criticism with positivity, you just get better mentally, internally, at handling negative criticism. Because now a certain type of humility develops within you. You don't feel the need to argue about everything. You don't feel the need to be nasty back. You develop what is basically a strong sense of self-emotional control. So that's why I think it's so important to respond to people with grace and humility. When you do, you don't always have to, and there's certainly no one forcing you to. But in the case of constructive criticism, I always do. I always try to be kind to people and respond with thanks and appreciation. Now, the second group of people you're going to run into probably a little bit less frequently, but certainly still often, is the devil's advocate. Or in some cases, I like to refer to them as the strawman, because so often, probably 20, 30 comments a day, I get people accusing me of saying things I never said and then attacking me for those things, which of course in the world of apologetics and argumentation is called a strawman. They're attacking you for something that they created. I haven't found there to be a significant difference between devil's advocates and people who are making strawman arguments, because ultimately it's all rooted in the same thing. These are people who like to argue for the sake of arguing. There's just no value to their comment outside of intentionally wanting to argue. And their point might be right, their point might be wrong. It doesn't really matter, and typically to devil's advocates, they will even argue for a point they themselves don't even believe in. One thing that's always very clear about these people, though, is that they have unwavering opinions. They're very steadfast in their view. It doesn't matter to them. They just want to stir the pot and get a rise out of you. The big thing is getting a response. So with people like this, the best thing you can do is simply ignore them. Usually on my channel, when I run into somebody like this, I just respond with kindness. Not agreeability, unlike with constructive criticism. I'm not agreeable, I just say, thank you for letting me know. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I do appreciate you sharing your opinion or view. Something kind of along the lines of that, because that stops the argument right there. There's nothing for them to rebut against. I'm not giving them a counter argument because that would be pointless. They're just going to keep arguing forever. So with people like that, probably the best thing you can do is just either ignore them or just respond with kindness and agree to disagree. Now, the third type of group you're going to run into are the trolls. Now, trolls are distinctly different from devil's advocates because they're not arguing for the point of arguing. They don't have strong opinions. They don't care. They're basically just farming for interactions. They have no point in even leaving the comment beyond just trying to troll people. People like that are just trying to get an emotional response out of you or maybe other people in your comments or in your life. And the best way to fight a troll would be to show that their input has no value at all. If they want to troll on your channel, that's fine. They can say what they want. Don't dislike the comment. Don't respond to it. Don't block the people from your channel or your Facebook or whatever. Just let it be there and let no one respond to it. When you respond emotionally to people, especially trolls, you're effectively giving them power over your emotions. So just based on that premise alone, the best thing you could do with trolls is just not respond at all. In other words, trolls are people that starve for attention, and there's nothing that they hate more than being ignored. Now, this last category is probably the least common of them, but you will get them. Regardless of whether you have a YouTube channel or you're dealing with people in real life, you are going to deal with malicious bullies sometimes. These comments typically have no value whatsoever outside of just trying to hurt people. So let me just give you one example. I got a comment 2 days ago of someone just saying, "You're the ugliest person I've ever seen in my entire life. It literally hurts my eyes to watch this. I can't believe I watched this whole thing." They actually said that, and I'm just thinking to myself, if I hurt you so much, why did you watch the whole video? You could have exited out and just closed the tab at any point. So I guess that one was kind of funny. Maybe the person was just trolling me, I don't know. But it came across as just a blatant, malicious bully. They had no point in leaving that comment outside of just trying to be mean for the sake of being mean. Not to mention the comment wasn't even true anyways. I might not be the most beautiful person in the world, but I am most definitely not the ugliest that they have ever seen. Unless, of course, they live under the stage of the Victoria's Secret's catwalk. But when you're dealing with comments like this, probably the best thing you can do is delete them and block them from your channel, because people like that will just keep doing it. It's not about getting a response out of you. They know that you read that comment and they know that it hurt you, and that's all that matters to them. And you're going to get comments like that regardless of the platform you're on. Although I have found some platforms are worse than others, I found that Instagram as a whole isn't really that toxic of a place. There's some negative people, but it's not too bad. Whereas Reddit, for example, is one of the most toxic places on the entire internet, and almost every single comment from every single person is negative in some way. It's just an extremely negative place, and I would highly recommend you avoid it. Facebook's interesting in that it's kind of give or take, but most of your criticism from Facebook is probably going to come from friends and family, and in those cases, it's just best to be nice to people regardless. When it comes to criticism as a whole, the best way to deal with it internally isn't to ignore it. You have to kind of face your fears head on. Someone can't hurt you with something that they say if you know it's not true. If someone, for example, told me that I was a little person because I'm 2 feet tall, would that offend me? No, of course it wouldn't offend me because it's not true. I know it's not true. It wouldn't make any sense for that to offend me because there's no fear there. I don't have any attachment to wanting something to be otherwise true. Whereas let's say somebody said, oh, Josh, you have a big nose, or you don't have, a great hairline, or your jawline's not the best, or you have acne or something realistic that maybe I do suffer from. And in those kind of situations, maybe it would hurt me more because that is something that at least has more of a seed of truth to it. But I've learned to not let those things affect me because you build mental fortitude internally when you're honest with yourself. When you look in the mirror and you're honest about the way you look, you're honest about your personality type, the way your voice sounds, whatever it is that people are mocking you for, if you just confront reality and you learn to accept it, it doesn't hurt you. It has no power over you. I always like to say that it's not the truth that hurts, but it's simply the realization of the lies we let ourselves believe that we find painful. So if you take a second to think about that, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If you know something's true, you accept it, it doesn't really bother you so much. But if you try to pressure yourself into a view of yourself outside of the bounds and realm of reality, you're always going to struggle with what people have to say about you. Ultimately, honesty really is the best policy when it comes to how you deal with criticism internally. Now, that doesn't mean being hard on yourself. That doesn't mean constantly berating yourself internally, because that's just another form of ego. When we really think about humility, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. We've all heard that quote and we know it's true. The truth is everything in your life that comes out of your mouth has to be processed internally first. And the way you process criticism is ultimately going to define not just how you respond to people, but who you are individually as a person. We've all heard that short parable about the egg and the potato in the water. The same boiling water that hardens an egg softens a potato. It's not the circumstances surrounding your life, but it's what you're made of. And young people today, especially people that are in their early teens, are growing up in a world where they never experienced life outside of the internet. Everything in their life revolves around some form of social media, whether that's TikTok or YouTube or Facebook. In some way or another, someone is constantly criticizing them. I would imagine most young people today have experienced some form of cyberbullying. And it's easy to just tell these kids, okay, delete your social media. But they can't even operate today socially outside of it. And that's not necessarily their fault. That's just the nature of culture today. At the end of the day, I think this is a message young people are starving and desperate to hear. Whether you're someone that's famous or you're just doing your best to stay out of the spotlight, I hope this video was useful in some way, especially when it comes to dealing with negative criticism in your life. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you share this video with friends and family that you know are struggling with negativity in their lives. See you on the next one.